All right. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, thanks for your patience, everyone. I appreciate you coming today, and I just want to talk today about what increased tariffs mean to you and your strategies to adapt. So, I'm Dr. Erica Shelley. I'm the Executive Director of the Organic Council of Ontario, OCO for short. And I know that tariffs and trade disruptions can be frustrating. And I want to assure you that you're not alone in this. I'm sure you know that if you talk to anyone around Canada lately or even down in the States, people are really frustrated. But today we're going to break down what these changes mean for you and more importantly, what we can do to navigate them together. So, for those of you who may not be familiar with OCO, we are Ontario's industry association for organic businesses and producers. Our job is to advocate for policies that support the organic sector, provide resources for farmers and food businesses, and help connect everyone along the organic value chain, from growers and processors to distributors and retailers. And right now, one of the biggest challenges facing our industry is the uncertainty surrounding tariffs and their impact on agricultural trade. So, what can you expect from today's discussion? We're going to go over how these new tariffs could affect your business, some of those strategies you can do to reduce your risk and adapt, and ways that we at OCO can support you through this process. We want to make sure that no matter what's happening at the trade policy level, that our Ontario organic sector stays strong, competitive, and resilient. All right, so let's dive into the key topics we're going to cover today. The goal here is to provide you with a clear understanding of the tariff situation, its impact on the organic sector, and most importantly, strategies to adapt and move forward. So we're going to break down the tariffs. We'll look at some case examples, some industry-wide impacts, the Canadian organic standards and the supply chain issues, expanding markets, strategies for adaptation, funding, and resources. What's next? And we actually have a guest, My-Lien Bosch from COTA will be talking with us, and then we will have some discussion. So let's start by breaking down what we actually know and what we don't know about these tariffs. Right now, there is a lot of uncertainty, and while headlines may sound alarming, it's important to remember that this could be more about political posturing than actual policy. So, what's changing? The US has announced the possibility of imposing an additional 25% on Canadian imports. A significant increase, but it's not guaranteed to happen. And if it does, it may not be at the full 25% or apply to all products we expect. So these negotiations are still in play. However, we do know pretty well that in response, Canada has stated it will retaliate with equivalent tariffs, meaning certain US goods imported into Canada will also become more expensive. These tariffs would be on top of any existing import duties. So, who's affected? If these tariffs move forward, they will impact agriculture, manufacturing, transportation, the automotive sector, and more. That means costs could rise not just for exported goods, but also for products we rely on daily, whether it's farm equipment, food ingredients, or fuel. And one thing to note in our organic value chain, our farmers often are working two jobs. And so it might not just be their farming that's going to be impacted or in that value chain. They might also be impacted by if they work in these other industries, the possibility of having issues in those industries as well. And so it's really important that we recognize that we're not only tackling issues within farming, but also the fact that we have a lot of farmers who work multiple jobs. So right now, the pause is until March 6th. A temporary hold while both governments continue discussions. The premiers were down in Washington this week. Hopefully, some good stuff came out of that, but it means it could change quickly. The tariffs could actually come into effect sooner because we know Trump kind of just changes his mind and does what he wants to, but it also might not happen at all, depending really on how those negotiations unfold. For us in the organic sector, the key takeaway is to stay informed and be prepared, but also to avoid unnecessary panic. The situation is evolving, and our goal is to help you navigate the changes if and when they happen. So, what does this mean for your business? Let's take a closer look at how these tariffs could play out in the real world. So, to illustrate, we're going to look at the short term impacts through the lens of a real world example. This is one of our board members had brought this up as one of the issues that they were having with their farm or with their industry. So, this is a 1,500-acre farm that relies heavily on US exports. So it grows soybeans, corn, and grains, and 50% of their sales depends on the US market. That's a huge reliance on cross-border trade. Now, our grain prices were already down 40% from 2 years ago. Now, if you add the 25% tariff, that might actually be the breaking point for that industry, or that's how he feels. And if these tariffs could go through, the farm could lose access to its biggest customer. And that leaves two options if these tariffs go in place. The one is to find new buyers or flood the Ontario market with grain, driving prices down even further. That supply and demand thing. Unlike other industries, organic farmers can't just pass on these extra costs to consumers. They're price takers, not price setters. So that's an important thing to note as we look at this. So in the short term, we just discussed how one of our farms could be impacted, and with the organic value chain, there's so many different people that are involved in making so many different products, and in that entire value chain of inputs to putting together granola bars to the shipping of these products. And of course, these challenges extend across the entire organic sector. But let's break it down to the short-term effects that businesses across the value chain may experience. If these tariffs take effect, businesses in the organic sector will face three major short-term impacts. There's possibly more, but these are the major ones. The businesses may have to choose between raising prices, which could make them less competitive, or absorbing the extra costs, leading to financial strain. Also, the restricted US market access for organic grains, processed foods, and other key exports. Those tariffs could make Canadian products too expensive for US buyers, closing off a major sales channel. And then we're looking at increased input costs. So some essential farming inputs like fertilizers such as Supelmag and Kmag are imported from the US, and they will become more expensive, possibly raising production costs for organic farmers. So these are just sort of the broad impacts, but each farm and business is going to experience them differently. I'd actually love to hear from you. How do you think these tariffs could affect your business? There's a lot of us on here, so if you could put that into the chat and we'll take a look at that. Feel free to just share those thoughts right there. And then at the end, you can also bring them up in the discussion. But let's shift gears and start looking at the long-term strategies to adapt and build resilience. So we've talked about the immediate disruptions, but what about the bigger picture? Tariffs don't just cause short-term headaches, they also reshape industries over time. Why these changes bring challenges, they also create new opportunities for businesses that can adapt. And I know we sound really positive in talking about this, but there is possibly some really good things that could come out of this if they do take place. So over time, businesses will adjust, and we may see some major shifts across the organic sector. So here are some key ways the industry could change if these tariffs remained in place. So increased interprovincial trade. A lot of people have said that it's more difficult to trade with the adjacent province than to trade with the US. And that is problematic. And it has been a problem for a long time. So with the US markets less accessible, we might see a rise in domestic trade, encouraging more regional supply chains within Canada. And that's an issue that's needed to be addressed for a long time. We might also see more businesses relocating to Canada. So some US or international companies may move part of their operations to Canada to avoid trade barriers, creating new investment and job opportunities. Because not only will they be able to service the Canadian population, but they might not have the same export taxes going out as well to other countries. Restructuring of the supply chain. So companies may explore alternative export markets beyond the US, leading to shifts in where and how organic products are traded globally. And we already are one of the largest markets in organic traded goods. And we have a risk of reduced organic availability. If organic farmers struggle with rising costs and lower profits, some may switch back to conventional farming, and that's one of the not great long-term impacts, which could reduce the overall supply of organic products in Canada. But the opposite to that is actually that we import a huge amount of organic goods. And so if we do decrease the amount or that is actually being imported, then a lot of those foods may be looked for at locally. And that will be really important in terms of building relationships out in the next little while. So these are just some possibilities, but again, I want to hear from you. How do you see the tariffs shaping the future of your business or the organic sector as a whole? You can add that into the chat. And if you have thoughts or ideas, we can also talk about those in the discussion. So let's look at the strategies, and this is the part that you're here for, to stay resilient and adapt to these shifting marketing changes. So one of the biggest challenges for organic businesses is um, that we have basically can't replace imports with any available alternative. Like there are very strict rules in what can actually be put into an organic farming or processing industry. So the Canadian organic standards are very strict about what can and can't be used in organic production. And unfortunately, many of the approved inputs and ingredients come from the US. This means that if tariffs drive up costs or limit access to these products, we need to find alternative sources, and they still need to meet the organic certification requirements. So whether it's fertilizers, processing ingredients, equipment, we need solutions that keep organic farms and businesses running. So right now at OCO, we're working to identify and compile a list of alternative suppliers so that businesses across the sector can make informed decisions. And this is also where I need you to write in the chat. If you know that you have an input that comes up from the States and you don't have an alternative, or if it's a great increase in cost to you, can you please put that into the chat for us so that we can add that to our list that we're putting together so that we can identify alternatives if they are available. So we just really need your input. And you can also email us as well if you have, if you need to look over those inputs and where they're coming from. But the more that we collaborate, the better we can support the organic sector through these disruptions. So let's explore some broader strategies businesses can use to stay resilient and reduce their exposure to trade disruptions. All right, so global market options. So, and this may not be for everyone, but so far we basically have talked about the challenges, and we really want to look at some of those opportunities. So, if the U.S. becomes a more difficult market due to trade barriers, what else? Where else can we sell? The good news is that Canada has organic equivalency agreements with several key international markets, meaning our organic certification is recognized and accepted in these countries. So there's a lot of them. Beyond North America, we have access to the European Union, Japan, Switzerland, South Korea, the UK, and even Costa Rica. And these agreements make it much easier for certified organic businesses to enter and compete in these regions. That might sound like a big thing if you've only been working with the US, and expanding into a new market isn't always easy. But for businesses looking to reduce reliance on US, these agreements do provide a solid foundation to build on. So, what does this mean for you? If you're currently exporting or thinking about it, which one of these markets might be a good fit for your business? If you've had experience selling into any of these regions, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat. And next, we're going to actually dive into specific strategies for successfully expanding into these international markets and what support is available to help you do that. So it's those proactive steps that we're talking about that need to happen. And the strategies, of course, is to diversify your markets. So that's that first one, expanding into those other markets, Europe, Asia, and interprovincially in Canada. That all can reduce dependence on a single market and spread that risk. So Canadians' organic equivalency agreements facilitate the access to these markets, and we'll have My-Lien talking a little bit later about COTA and how they actually help with that as well. But then we can also start looking inward. How do we strengthen those domestic supply chains? So, building partnerships within Canada, collaborating with local suppliers and distributors, all of that can help mitigate the impact of international trade disruptions and support the national economy. We're not saying don't trade, don't look at other countries, but we are saying this is an opportunity for us to, made in Canada, buy local and push that messaging out there. And advocating for policy change. So pushing for tariff exemptions on organic goods is something that we can do, and of course, lobbying for the removal of interprovincial trade barriers. So that can create a more favorable environment for organic businesses. And then, of course, engaging with industry associations can help amplify these efforts. And let's talk about value added processing. So I was talking to another company who grows um, a meat product here, and it has to be cooked a certain way. So they actually send it down to the southern United States. It gets cooked, and then they bring it back to Canada. So on that product, they're going to have to pay for the export tax and the import tax to have that product continue. And they have to consider, is it even something to do? So, one of the things that we can look at is developing more local processing capacity. So, this allows, excuse me, this allows businesses to retain more value within Canada and reduce reliance on imported processed goods and offer unique products to the market that maybe have not been here before. So, by embracing some of these strategies, businesses hopefully can navigate the current challenges and emerge stronger, assuming those tariffs come into place. It's about being proactive, adaptable, and collaborative to ensure the long term success in the organic sector. All right, at the end of the day, it comes down to money, right? Like we want to support local, we want to bring work here, but at the end of the day, we all have to pay our bills. And so looking at funding and the available resources will be very important if these tariffs do come into place. So if you're thinking about moving into a new market, there are several funding programs and resources that are available to support business in expanding your market. So whether it's by creating new websites, going and doing trade shows, making new connections and traveling to places. There's a lot of bits and pieces that are actually supported through different funding mechanisms. The first one is the can export. So I've actually used this one in the past. It does require that you have a minimum revenue the preceding year of $100,000. And I'm just going to lead with that because it is a very good grant, but it is very competitive, and you need to be moving into markets that you have not been in before. So that's very important. But they do actually, in the past, have paid for travel, funding, changing languages on your websites, all sorts of things. Even patent stuff has been covered under CanX. And right now they're on pause. They haven't opened. They'll usually open in the next little while with the government, federal government things happening. I'm not sure how that will change the opening of that, but definitely keep checking back to that website. The other one is Export Development Canada. So, Export Development Canada provides a range of services, including insurance, financing, and expert advice to help businesses manage with risks associated with international trade. So, maybe you're not sure if people are going to pay you. You can actually get insurance through EDC that will help cover those costs, especially like if there's a long time between when you take in the orders and when they actually get them, and then how long those payments come into you. So basically, it's credit insurance and financing through EDC. There's also the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, Sustainable CAP. That's actually been running for a number of years. And if you're not familiar with it, you definitely should be looking at their website. So they have many programs. The Business Risk Management Program, which includes agri-stability, agri-invest, agri-recovery, assists farmers in managing income declines, investing in risk mitigation, and recovering from disasters. Now, the tariff doesn't count as a disaster, but because they're talking natural disasters, but it would be very difficult. So you would definitely want to look at that. But there's also, as you're looking to expand markets, even maybe interprovincially, you can actually use the agri marketing program, and the agri competitiveness program will actually help train and do knowledge transfer if you're starting to look into other markets as well. So you can look at the AAFC's website for more information on that. And then the other thing that's being discussed is the remission process for tariff relief. So when the tariffs came out, the government right away said there might be this remission process. And basically, it's if your business is experiencing significant financial harm due to US import tariffs, so that matching tariff that Canada is saying that they're going to do, then you can apply for a remission, which is an exemption or refund of those tariffs. And I think that's really important to note. We don't know what those programs will look like and if they'll actually come into place, but it was already being talked about very early on in February when they said they were going to have these tariffs come into place. So basically, you can look at the websites as things progress to see what's going to be available. They're not going to put anything there until they actually have hard answers on these in terms of that remission process. But Can Export, EDC, and the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership are all available for you to look at in the next little while. So these are just some of the key resources available to support your business in navigating current trade challenges. And if you're aware of other funding sources or programs that could benefit our community, please share them in the chat or reach out via email. And collectively, hopefully, we can build a comprehensive toolkit to support the organic sector's resilience and growth. So, what's next? Well, really, a lot of us are just waiting to see what happens, but you can sit there and you can twiddle your thumbs, or you can do things that if maybe the tariffs don't happen on March 6th, maybe they're happening in another year, and starting to break down the codependent relationship between the US and Canada in your business may be a healthy or thing for you to look at in that diversification, which is always the case. Diversifying is always helpful. So one of these ways that we want to help you at OCO is we're providing information, and we're also looking at a matchmaking initiative where we're going to connect organic buyers with local producers. So it is Valentine's Day, and yeah, so our love match here hopefully will be to start bringing more local buyers and producers together so that we can build up a stronger Ontario local community and even across Canada. The other thing is that we have another webinar happening on Monday, February 24th, and it's basically about promoting Buy Canadian, Buy Ontario within your business, and how we can basically activate that. Because whether or not you're trading with the US, you're probably selling in Canada at some level, and all of this local stuff is definitely beneficial in terms of long-term benefits to your business. Now, what can you do if you're just an individual or a small company and with the energy that's coming out from all of this tariff talk, there is this definite, Canada proud moment happening. Take advantage of it. So share your unique story and highlight the quality, the sustainability, and the local impact of your organic products. Engage consumers, leverage social media campaigns, um, focus on themes like grow in Ontario, proudly Canadian organic, local, 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 buy Canadian, buy Ontario, all of those things, people that resonates with them right now. So make sure you use that to your advantage. Should always be the case as far as I'm concerned, but right now yeah, there's more people on board than ever, and definitely we should be taking advantage of that. So building strong relationships with your customers is essential in fostering trust and loyalty. And we also need to look at those next relationships that you can have, these new relationships maybe you didn't have before or you hadn't worked as hard because you didn't need to. So connect with organic producers and create bundles or cross promotional opportunities. Develop relationships with Canadian distributors and retailers to reduce dependency on US customers. Look at moving production into Canada and if you're already or if you're sending stuff down to the States. Engage with your community, go to your farmers markets, pop-up events, farm tours, and reach out to all of your local retailers, restaurants, and distributors. I can guarantee you that if you reach out to one of your local restaurants right now and say, you know what, I have some local whatever product that will be ready at this time of year, it's organic. Would you be interested in it? They might be listening a lot more now than they ever have in the past. And of course, explore new markets within Canada. Have you only sold in Ontario? You could start looking at selling in other provinces or even Ontario's a big place. Maybe you've just sold in southwestern Ontario and you could go into northern Ontario. And then the other piece is that we need to advocate for local organic agriculture. It's a powerful way to strengthen our community and support sustainable practices. So by choosing Canadian and Ontario organic products whenever possible, you directly contribute to the vitality of our local economy and the well-being of our environment. One of the things I say to people, I don't know if you know my background, but I come into this because I'm a beekeeper and I was really frustrated with how many bees were dying due to pesticide usage. And one of the things that someone mentioned is, we import so many organic goods from other places, which means we're protecting the environment of those other places. And no, not that those people aren't worth being protected, but why wouldn't we want to protect our ecosystems locally, our health locally, and our people locally? And so getting across that piece, especially when we come to talking about organics, and organic in Ontario, organic in Canada can be a very strong message. Let's talk about our ecosystem, our environment, and protecting things locally. Encourage your friends, family, and community members to support local organic businesses and foster a culture that values and sustains our agricultural heritage. We have a huge agricultural um, basically theme across all of Canada, and we should really be proud of that and talking about how we easily feed our country and many more. So advocacy actually extends beyond personal choices as well. So talk to your local schools, community, university, colleges, institutions, anywhere and say, are you using local produce? Are you using local foods? And are you using organic foods in your places or are you importing them? Why don't you become part of the solution and use our local products, our healthy products, our Ontario organic products? So engage with your local food policy councils or participate in community discussions. And all that can help to influence policies that support the organic sector. And and with that in mind, let's talk about supporting the organizations such as OCO that are dedicated to amplifying our collective efforts. So support your support. Yeah, so we do a lot of things at OCO, and we're the Ontario provincial representative for organics. We have federal representation as well. So COTA, the Canadian Organic Trade Association, they deal with actually that movement of products across the borders, the international borders. And then we also have the Ontario Federation of Canada and the Canadian Organic Growers that all have their part in keeping our organic value chain strong. Locally, we try to do as much as we can for you here, and our limit really is of course how many people we can hire to work, how much time we have to work for you, and everything that we can do to support you. And so this is my, like, that the phone network thing where they called you and they're like, can you support us? Definitely. Can you support us? We're running our membership campaign now. We have actually rejigged our membership so that there's benefits for everyone, and all levels of membership. And so when you support us, you allowed us to advocate for you in so many different ways. And we support, research, but we also support policy and advocacy and these matchmaking programs and bringing together farmers and everyone in that value chain. So please take a visit to our website, and you can organiccouncil.ca, and you can become a member today and help us continue the work that we're doing for you here. One of the things we will be doing is a marketing campaign about buying local. And we were going to start that a little bit earlier, but now we've decided to wait to see what happens with the tariffs before we push that out, just so we have consistent messaging as time goes on. So those are the ways you can support your support. And speaking of supporting your support, I have My-Lien from COTA here. And let me see. I'm gonna quit sharing my page here for a minute. All right, and oh, there we go. All right,
Great.
my page here, but I'm not seeing the one I need to quit sharing my screen. I have like so many windows open. Um,
Do you want me to go ahead and get started, Erica?
yeah, go ahead, go ahead. I'm trying to unshare here, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I lost my screen.
No problem. Anyway, hello everyone. My name is My-Lien Bosch. I'm the Government Relations and Regulatory Affairs Manager at the Canada Organic Trade Association, or COTA. Um, Thank you very much for allowing me to come and speak to you about the tariffs and what we are doing as well. I think this actually really showcases all the work that's being done. So you've got lots of work that's happening on the ground and in the provinces with OCO. And COTA, we're doing a lot of work and taking the charge on the national level as we look at what we can do to learn more about the tariffs, get more information for all of you as well, and for our members, and to be able to see what we could do to mitigate the risks to you as much as possible. So, interestingly, with this COTA, so a little background, COTA is a member-based association that represents and promotes and protects the interests of the organic sector across Canada. Our membership spans from input, certification bodies, all across the supply chain, distribution, etc. Um, and really, our goal is to protect and to grow this sector. And interestingly, with what's happening with the tariffs, our four key pillars that we work on are all being activated in a big way with the threats. So we have market access and development. So a lot of this in terms of export support, domestic support, funding, information. Industry intelligence and data is another one that we work on. Most recently, actually, it was launched this week. FEBO, I can't remember what it stands for right now, but basically it collects all the information around organic markets, agriculture, data around the world. And so that's recently been published. So if you're looking for kind of information about organic in other areas, if you're investigating that, that's a great publication to look at. And COTA, with some of the work that we do with data, we actually contribute to the chapter in there about Canada. So that's one of the things. Work on public advocacy and working with consumers. So Choose Canada Organic, Organic Month, all of those things that will help to share the wonderful stories that we have about organic and the brands and the farmers, everything like that. So you may have heard of before, and regulatory and government relations and advocacy. And of course, that's very much related to making sure that organic, our voice is shared and our priorities and our challenges and our issues are shared with government, so that we can see what we can do to find solutions for them. So in terms of what we're doing, I would say on this file specifically, a lot of it is listening, trying to gain clarity and getting the information out to the key stakeholders and our members, and making sure that we advocate on behalf of the sector. So, in terms of gaining clarity, this would be including discussions with Agriculture, Agri-Food Canada. Um, we are in, for example, we have been in meetings with the ag minister um, to discuss what are the impacts, where our short-term, long-term goals are, or challenges could be with these tariffs, and what do we need as a sector for it. Actually, I'm on a call later this afternoon with Department of Finance where they'll be talking about tariffs again. So a lot of this is trying to get the information as it's coming out and being able to share that quickly. And also being able to share the impacts on these calls and really having a direct access to be able to ask the questions that we have as they come up. Also speaking, of course, with CFIA in terms of what does this mean, in terms of export, import, all of that kind of stuff. So COTA is uniquely positioned to be able to engage in these discussions with government, not only government, but we are also engaging with partners, industry partners, regional associations like OCO and other associations. We're working closely with Organic Trade Association in the US as well to see how our messaging can be shared and consistent. Our executive director, Tia Lofsgaard, was this past week at BioFoc, which is really the global marketplace for policy advocacy markets for organic, really the largest organic trade show in the world. And you actually have, it's a confluence of government folks, industry folks, policy makers, allies. She's been engaged and trading partners. So she's been engaged in many discussions with the US, the EU, Indo-Pacific region partners, speaking with trade commissioners as well, and talking about this, of course, because it's top of mind, and seeing what we can do to be able to open more markets and deal with this issue for our Canadian companies. So stay tuned for more updates next week. She's just coming home now, so we'll be able to get some more information to our members next week. Also looking at diversification of markets, of course, in many of these discussions. COTA, one of our key pillars is to try to help with diversification of markets and trying to amplify the funding as much as we can in our discussions with government. Some of the tools that we currently offer our members are promotional funding. So for domestic promotion of organic products, for example, export funding as well, if you're looking to break into new markets and need funding for that. There's trade show funding support that we offer. There's buyer missions, matchmaking that we are in discussions about. And we've also hosted a number of webinars that are available on YouTube around different markets and how to break into them and what are the key things that you need to know about those. So those are some of the tools that we offer if you are looking at that kind of stuff. We also listen actively to the members right now. This is such an important part because all of these, as Erica was talking about, being able to understand exactly what your situation is, what are the examples, what are your needs, are really, really important to be able to advocate for you and advocate for supports that you might need. So we've had some one-on-one discussions with members that we will be continuing to do. We published a survey for members to better understand what their needs are. Some of the questions that we have are around what are the other regulatory policies or barriers that you might have? What's the impact on your short and long-term business? What markets are you interested in diversifying? There's also a question about tariffs, as Erica had talked about. They had published, the government had published an initial list of products for which there would be reciprocal tariffs, with the idea that there would be a secondary publication later and a consultation on those. So I think we're not sitting and waiting for that consultation to open. We're already trying to get feedback. If there is going to be a more broader list of tariffs, where should that be? Should we have a carve out for certain products? Should we have a carve out for organic? Should it be 100% reciprocal tariff? So those are all of the kind of things that we're trying to get a feel for, so that when the government comes back and they're asking industry, what do you need? We can come back with an answer. And of course, understanding how some of the challenges and how different businesses are coping with this. So some of them are taking a wait and see approach. Some of them are being a little bit more proactive. But I think the key thing, as Erica was talking about, is it's really about preparation, communication, and not panic. And so a lot of the businesses, what are they doing? They're reviewing their contracts, seeing what they're saying about, payments, how what happens in the event of, tariffs, all of that kind of stuff. They're relooking at their country of origin. What are and their supplier network? What are the alternative sources of supply? How can they diversify all of that? What are their options even for diversifying some of their finished products as well? And as was talked about, the organic equivalency arrangements that we have in Canada that actually give us access to 35 countries for based on our organic certification, communicating with suppliers and customers, making sure they're transparent, discussing with them the possibilities of what could happen in the scenarios, etc., so that they can also prepare. So this is, again, it's not about panic. It's just open communication, assessing what the needs are, and making sure that we are prepared with whatever happens, given the uncertainty of everything. And again, working with associations, working with OCO, working with COTA, so that we understand your needs and we can advocate best for you. Some of the messages that we do continue to look at are ensuring that the organic industry has the same protections as other Canadian businesses. So making sure that whatever comes out there, we are included and are able to access those. Ensuring that any potential support programs that are out there for if you want to expand your market or diversify your market, or income losses, such as the remission process, we have access to that, as well as a general reduction of regulatory burden, so that we can facilitate some more of that trade internally. And we know that all levels of government are talking about putting together relief packages. We want to make sure that organic is definitely part of that. And another thing that we are looking at specifically related to organic is the equivalency arrangements. It's the first time that Canada and US will be negotiating an arrangement since the inception of it in 2009. And so we want to make sure that we are in a position of strength and that we get the best possible outcomes, and that these tariff discussions do not impact our ability to be able to have a positive outcome, both on the equivalency arrangements that we have with the US as well as the CUSMA. And of course, any of the specific nuances that we might have with organic, those are things that we're bringing out. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, let me know. And I would encourage you, if you'd like to reach out or have some additional comments so that we can better advocate for the sector on a national level, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Maylene. That was great. And it's so great that provincial and federal organizations, what this is like the first time I think across Canada where we're actually seeing our government officials working all the way across, and we've been trying to do that in organics for a long time. So it's really nice to be able to see everybody's kind of working at the level that they can. So we're like, promote local, promote organic. But if you are trading with the US, here are the things you can do, and COTA can support you with that as well. So I want to open this up now for questions and answers. I did say to put them in the chat there. I don't see anybody actually put any in there, but feel free to just put up your hand or come on screen and ask any questions or discussion. Feel free to talk about if you are concerned about this and the impacts to your business. Really, we just, as Maylene said, we're here to listen. So sometimes we know exactly where you're concerned and what you're concerned about, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we haven't seen the whole picture because we're not living in your sector doing the things that you're doing. And so it's really important for us to listen. So I appreciate you listening to us. Can we listen to you now? Do you have some questions? Do you have some comments? Everybody's just fine with the whole tariff thing. All right. Is there anybody out there? I actually have a question for you, Maylene, because you're up on Parliament Hill there. What do people think that the tariffs will be coming in on March 6th? Like, what's the discussion around that, or is everyone just a big question mark?
I think people are always very optimistic. I've heard and I've attended a number of webinars as well, and there are some people who are saying it's not an if, it's a when situation. And it's also a situation where what can we do if it does come up to stop it quickly, like we did the last time it came around, right? So um, I think it would be great if they didn't happen at all, but I think things are quite unpredictable, that we don't know exactly what's going to happen, and we need to be prepared that if it does, we have to have a strong reaction so that things can get resolved quickly if they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well that's good to hear, in terms of planning the when versus if. It's like, you always have your car insurance. You don't ever want to get in an accident, but it's good to like, be prepared for anything that is coming. And in this case, if it sounds like it's most likely, then getting prepared for that. Sunshine Farms, as said, we are concerned about increases to inputs, and we are also seeing a huge uptick in folks asking about availability of our products and interest in the made in Canada goods. So, Sunshine Farms, I imagine you have a name too. So I was gonna say Sunshine Farms now. But if you could let us know which inputs particularly you're most concerned about, because one of the things that we want to do at OCO is find out where people have been getting inputs from the states that are very important to their operations, and determining if there are alternatives to those inputs, if there are Canadian made alternatives or other places in the world, or is there no alternatives? And then, when we're talking about the Canadian organic standards, looking through that lens of, maybe that product is not available anymore and we need to have something else available, or something else that people can use will be something that needs to be discussed in the future. So, is there a specific input, Sunshine Farms, um, that you're concerned about, or is it just all of them? Adrian. All right. And if we can help you out at all, please reach out to us. Sometimes we don't have the answers, but we know a lot of people who do know the answers to most of these things. And so you can always reach out to us if you want like specific information. And Maylene, are you guys also working on a similar list where you're trying to
Yeah.
look at those alternatives?
Yeah, so we have already we have COTA has a buyer directory on there. And if you're still looking for other products beyond that, I encourage you to reach out, send us an email, and we do have a lot of contacts as well, and we can see what we can do. So I think that's great, that idea about this is a great time to be able to lean on our partners and get through this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Are any other questions, concerns? How many people here are are happy about this whole tariff conversation? Is there anyone who looks at this as like a really positive, optimistic thing? You can put your hands up. I see one, Nikian, yeah. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but yeah. I actually think there's potentially a lot of positive to come from this in the long term. I think promoting, diversification, as I mentioned in my talk, is important, but also just that, protecting our local ecosystems and buying local and getting people, into a mindset about how important Canada is in agriculture and how important we are as farmers and different people in that value chain in terms of what we bring to this entire country is a little bit of a nationalism movement that hasn't been here before that I've felt, right? So that's been good. But so I got one person with a hands up. How many of you, we'll even see if you're alive and awake over there. How many of you raise your hand if you are really worried about the tariffs? All right, so Adrian, Lauren, I don't even know Kalau. Apologies. I know I just did not do that. So at least three of you. How about on our team here? So yeah, yeah. And I work in another industry as well. Like I have another company and the tariff thing basically will make it so that my company is not able to ship 60% of the stuff it normally ships. So it has impacts across all industries. And I'm just like a lot of the farmers and people that have multiple sources of income that it can be a problem.
That's the question. You know what you want to ask.
Bring it, Fran.
Yes, we're really worried. It's Jim Farrell calling here. We're really worried about the impact it's going to cause, and even the bigger picture of the 51st state really worries me.
Yeah, and we're not tackling the 51st state issue in this conversation, but if it is an actual issue at some point, then we'll definitely look at how we would deal with that particular issue. But yeah, that's right now one of those things that we, don't know what the implications of that would be. If it would ever happen, if it's even a possibility. I know that there's a lot of conversation around that, but again, there's a lot of political posturing happening too, so it may just be that. So yeah, but um, in terms of what we can do for you at OCO, if you want to put it into the chat or if you want to mention it here, how can we best support you if these tariffs come into place? Oh, Stephen has a message down here. If it reduces or eliminates provincial trade barriers, that would be a positive. I agree, Stephen. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, what I'm going to say is that I really appreciate everybody for joining today. We have recorded this, so you can share it. We'll put it onto our social channels and onto our website, and you can share it. And hopefully we can see you in a couple of weeks for our next webinar. And so we really just want to support you through this the best that we can. If there's something we didn't cover today, or something that we should be adding to what we're doing at OCO to support you. And I'm sure with COTA, the same thing. If you can reach out to My-Lien and let us know how we can support you through this process. That's what we're here to do, is to look at policies, look at funding, look at resources, connect you with people in the industry. Let us know how we can do that for you, and we'll do our best to do that. So, all right. Nikian wrote, NutraWave is organic chicken litter pellets made in New Brunswick, 1-ton pallet for about $400, not including shipping. And is that expensive or cheap? A 1-ton pallet? I don't know. I don't know chicken litter. Does
Yeah,
anybody else know?
yes, it's really expensive.
Okay, okay. And is there some US made product that's similar?
There's a product in made in Michigan also in that same price range, but adding the the tariff onto it makes it unacceptable to use.
Okay, yeah. So, and it'll be interesting to see with the remission of tariffs, like maybe you won't end up paying them if it would be devastating to your operation in terms of importing. So fingers crossed that that is the case if that comes down the line. And Mailing might have more on that too as they're working on that stuff at a federal level. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And I look forward to hearing from you, seeing you, hopefully seeing your memberships come through in the next little while as we run our membership campaign. And I wish you all the luck through the next little time and looking for opportunities instead of panic, as Mailing said, will be fantastic. So thank you very much and have yourself a fantastic day.